Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another episode of The Summer Hikaru Died. We are checking out episode number 2 this time, and I am so excited. I absolutely adored that first episode. I loved it when I watched it, and I fell in love with it even more during the edit. Forgive me if you hear someone cutting grass. For some reason, the people that live around here feel the need to cut their grass 2 to 3 times a week, even though that shit doesn't grow. We're going to be checking this one out today. I just wanted to throw in a couple of things that I noticed during the edit and stuff. I had other ideas in my head, and most of them have escaped, sadly. I had things that I wanted to address. I should start writing these things down. But one of them being, and I've talked about it in some of the comment responses in the first episode rather, where I realized during the edit that that first episode spent a lot of time creating quiet moments where it wasn't showing much, nothing was happening, and it was just people living. It was the mundane normal life of these normal people, so I think that it was very well done and very ironic. So creating all these moments where it's showing such normal, mundane, just almost boring life with, just conversation, and showing random shots, still shots of just non-exciting things, just literally anything. It was really, really obviously intentional in the previous episode. I did talk about it already. It's reminding me of some other series like Evangelion, Steins Gate that I have already seen. But one thing that I noticed during the edit is that the fact that there's such an emphasis on showing so many scenes like that, it really helps to create almost like a dissonance or like a shock, and it really helps to offset the horror aspect, because things will go from just quiet, normal, nothing happening to suddenly horror is on the screen, and it really helps to make the horror in a horror series even more shocking. Because I went into this thinking we were going to see some horror almost immediately and everything, and it would take no time kind of just getting into the meat of things. But this is going to be a slower series to do that, and the way that it is building up the tension by creating all this normality and just nothingness. I say nothingness. I think it's doing a great job of showing just how life is in this town, village, whatever it is. Everything seems so normal, but for me, and I hope for you as well while you were watching this, it feels like we're just waiting for something to drop. It really does just feel like tense, having all those scenes that make this place seem so normal. Obviously there are scenes sprinkled in there that kind of make it obvious that things aren't exactly normal, but I think my point hopefully came across well. But yeah, what an incredible, phenomenal series this has been so far. Only one episode in so far. We're going to be checking out episode number 2 right now. I'm very excited for it. If you guys do enjoy the Summer Hikaru Died videos, please leave a like and subscribe if you have not done so already. Feel free to comment down below letting me know if you had a good Hikaru summer. I believe that this series will be wrapping up tomorrow. I think episodes release on Saturday and this will be released on Friday, so I believe the final episode will be tomorrow. So I hope that you guys have had an incredible time with the series. I'd love to hear you guys give the series praise without spoiling if possible. Hit the bell if you want to be notified when these videos go live. I am aiming for Monday and Friday releases so that the final episode reaction will be released on Halloween Day on a Friday. And of course, share this with someone who you think might enjoy this video. And one thing I also wanted to mention, I do have in the description down below my reaction to the opening, and hopefully by the time this is uploaded, the second episode, the ending reaction will also be live. So links will be in the description. Even if I don't have that video out yet, I will go back and edit the description to include the ending. So even if you're watching this a week or two late, hopefully the ending will be in there if it's not already out by the time I release this. I'm just talking in circles at this point, so we are, I think, ready to dive right into this. So here we go. This summer, Hikaru died. Episode number 2. Let's go. Oh shit, we're starting with bugs. I love the animation in this so much. Oh, speaking of Yoshiki, I really need a haircut too. Look at them cycling. Wow, look at the beauty of this world. The shadow being cast over everything again. Is he about to have another moment of crisis within himself, or... Master Aura, what does that even mean? Oh. Don't act like you weren't the one that did it. Jeez. That smile followed up with those... Ooh. Ain't it cool? Seeing him the way Yoshiki sees him is crazy. Little hamster. Oh shit, we're getting the opening. Hell yeah. Love this opening so much. I've listened to it so much ever since watching that opening. And of course, you can go check out the opening. The link to that is in the description below. Vondi is so good. Like, I just don't get how he's this good. We need to find out what the hell happened in that mountain. I will be trying to figure that out as we go along here. What was that thing that was in like a bag in the first episode? Episode 2, Suspicion. What? That's crazy. That is an insane way to do that. Shoved her hand down her throat to stop something from getting in. Is that it? Wow, the way we're getting to see Hikaru through the eyes of Yoshiki. And the only time we see through the eyes of Yoshiki, because we see his hair and everything, is when he looks at Hikaru. You might be cursed. Yeah, what's wrong with that? There might be a turbo granny in that tunnel. Oh shit, not the forest. Ooh, that does look creepy. It looks like the forest from the opening. Shit. Really? That's crazy. I think she's gonna be a fun character. Hell no. Hikaru wants to go. What does he know about this forest? The parasite that's latched onto him. I'm a new person. Oh my god, the way we're seeing it yet again. It's kind of telling you this idea that he's only got eyes for him, you know? Like, we're seeing through his eyes at him, but it's just... it's intense. Well, what does it matter? She was dead anyway. What is that, like, scarring or burn or whatever it is on his neck? Oh? You know, family? Ooh. What about this company? So this company came a little bit later. Hikaru was taken over by this thing? Surely it's all related. The ritual. Yes, what is this ritual? Jeez, the way the ants are just swarming there. So what was the ritual? Because he went missing and that means it failed? I love this style that they're doing. They've done it 2 episodes in a row now, where everyone else in the background and there's just a square behind him. It's really entertaining and humorous. Oh, this long shot just holding on that. It's only when you're alone. It's gonna gaslight you into thinking there's nothing there. Nonaki-sama. Who is Nonaki-sama? The world flipping upside down right there? Even the way the camera seemed to like take a bit to get into position there. That she did, and it came looking for her. Is attracted to fear. Ooh. Something seems to be watching. What is that zigzag? Is that someone with a long neck? Long neck lady? What the hell? Is it someone carrying a stick? Oh, this time we get to see him look somewhere else. Oh god. What? That was really, really creepy. Mikasa? Okay, so that's why you took your time getting here? Did you find the thing in the body bag or the... Who's Kohei? Oh. Oh, if you open that up, is that where the thing is? The creepy looking thing? There it is, yes. What is that? Whose head? A shrunken head? Most of them. It certainly has. Amogus? Hikaru? Get to it. That looked like a figure. Did he take on the curse so that you wouldn't have to? Ah, that's what I thought. Oh shit, what? You consumed it. Ugh, that's crazy. Don't look at anything but me. He does only have eyes for you. The only other time we saw him look at anything that wasn't you was when he got latched onto. He's such a goofball. Oh, he's sensing something in her. The way his eyes glow as he's like staring. Like his eyes look like, you know, in old pictures when you would take a picture and like the eyes would be red. That's what it's reminding me of. What? You're gonna protect him? You gonna make sure of it? Her? Sparkler. Indo family rule. Damn, the concept of loneliness within this episode. And that's how Yoshiki feels without, you know, the Hikaru that he once knew. Yeah, that's what I was wondering, how they get in this situation. What is happening? He doesn't want to look. He can't look. He knows once he looks that his perception, yeah. That's awful. Why? Why are you sticking your hand in? The actual image. The sparks. No. Yeah, this feels very sexual. Did he lose some control over it, or did he do that on purpose to scare him? I don't know what that was. He's embarrassed. This is the girl that was buying food that noticed Hikaru. That boy, I saw him with the other guy, the white-haired one. Wow, look at this animation for this mouth. Oh, this is not right. Oh, this is not right. Oh, this is not right. He is being bombarded. Oh my god. That was sensory overload. I'm sure his battery is depleted already. 3D bike. You're gonna warn him about... Yeah. Mixed? Shit. You see stuff other people can't. So what have you seen? And now you feel it here with us, walking amongst us. This terrible thing disappeared and went into a human. Okay, he's not laughing her off and being like, you sound crazy. Yeah, this ain't okay. Well, yeah, there's a lot. Rie Kurebayashi. Yeah, the way he's having to internally... shedding his skin. Yeah, there's a lot here. He's experiencing so much. Yoshiki, I swear, like, this is just awful for you. And the ending already. Man, this is like really setting up for just something tragic to happen. And I'm not ready for it. I say something tragic to happen. Something tragic has already happened. But it just feels like things are only going to get worse before they get better. And that was episode number 2 of the Summer Hikaru Died. Definitely a much slower episode. I feel like there wasn't as much content within this. It felt a lot shorter, and I guess a part of that is the fact that, you know, 3 minutes of this episode was taken up from opening and ending, whereas the previous episode didn't have that. So 3 minutes can definitely make a lot of time when within an anime, you can definitely do a lot more and show a lot more, tell a lot more, but at the same time I feel like this one was much more situational. The first episode was very situational as well, I guess, but there was a lot more going on. The whole opening with looking for Hikaru, and then the conversation about him not being him, and then showing them at school. Like, it was definitely more content, whereas this one, I feel like there are like three key moments within this. The first being, about the forest and everything. Like, they're talking about the forest for quite a bit, and then they go to the forest, and that does take up quite a bit of time, which I think is great because, you kind of get this idea of, okay, well, maybe this thing, whatever it is that is stalking this guy, I don't even know his name, I feel bad. Maybe it is only focusing on him. Maybe it's only got eyes on him, and it only does so when he's alone, because nothing happens when they all travel as a group. So, you get this false sense of security, this false sense of nothing is going to happen, everything is fine. But that is only done to make what happens next all the more shocking. And what happens next is that it happens to be Yoshiki that sees this thing, and I wonder if Yoshiki has some sort of affinity or some sort of desirable, because we saw at the end of the episode that Hikaru was talking about how he couldn't let him go, he couldn't leave him, he has to stay with him, he has to, all this here. And I feel like it's not necessarily that he himself is like desirable, it's more so what he represents and what he can mean for someone. And so this whole idea of loneliness is very ironic, because this being this, I don't know what you would call it, like monster of the forest or whatever, it is very lonely, and so it is seeking out companionship. And in the way it does that is that if anyone looks at it, it will latch onto that person. What makes this even more really sad is that we get a flashback then a little later of Hikaru, having like an outdoor bonfire type thing with, I'm guessing it was his father, and his father talks about how Hikaru needs to hurry up and find the one that he will marry, and do so quickly once he falls in love, I guess, because this being of the mountain or forest, I believe it's the same person or the same entity that we were introduced to a little earlier. If not, please correct me in the comments below. Maybe this entity that they're speaking of is someone else or something else. I can't remember the name that they used, but it had a name anyway, this entity. And the family of Hikaru, they have some sort of agreement with this thing where it won't go after that family, but it will instead go after the one that they love the most. And who does it latch onto? Well, who does it attempt to latch onto? The one that Hikaru potentially loved the most. I don't know if we'll ever get that answer, because Hikaru himself is now gone. All that's left is this other being that is within him, that is occupying his body. That makes everything so much sadder. Hikaru probably also loved Yoshiki, and it went after him instead, because it wasn't going after the family, it went after Yoshiki instead. Maybe it was a different entity being, but the fact that those two, that scene happened, and then the other scene talking about family and those that you love the most, it feels like there's supposed to be some sort of correlation. There's supposed to be some sort of a connection. The brain's meant to get sparked, and you're supposed to have all these thoughts. And speaking of sparks and everything, we see anytime. Well, not anytime, but we also see a scene, the scene, probably the biggest scene of the episode. I haven't talked about it yet, where Yoshiki puts his hand inside Hikaru. It's one, like Hikaru said, it almost seems raunchy, but it almost also feels very sexual. Saying this on camera, I hope it doesn't sound weird or anything, but it's literally Yoshiki being inside of the one that he has feelings for. And obviously it isn't inherently sexual. There's no real sexual act happening here, but the way it plays out with Hikaru, you've hit the spot, that's it right there. And like the way he leans over and he's like, nobody's ever touched me like that. The language used there, you close your eyes and you listen to that, or in my case, you read the subtitles without seeing what's happening, you would interpret this as something else entirely. So there's some sort of a sexual undertone there for sure. And that's made all the more upsetting when we see through the eyes of Yoshiki, he's seeing the sparks. He's seeing sparks, and it feels like he is making that physical connection that he's always wanted. It feels almost like this is something he's been dreaming of, something he's wanted for a long time, because of how willing, for one, he's willing to do it, and how he is looking at him, the way he just keeps going. But that's what makes this all the more sad when he immediately then pulls his hand away because he starts to feel like really weird or something. I don't know if that was Hikaru trying to scare him, because that's how it's played out, or if something weird was happening there, if Hikaru was losing control, and this thing that the lady at the end was talking about with it taking over his body, or him becoming mixed, I think is the language that was used. I wonder if that's kind of a tease for that Hikaru is getting him close so that he can also infect him or take over his body, or just something like that. But going back to the beginning of the episode, we see them, traveling together, probably to school, because we see them in school very shortly after, where they're talking about this Mitsura lady, the one who was killed at the end of the previous episode. And Hikaru is saying like, oh, it's so cool seeing a police car. I've never seen a police car before, and all this here. And then that's when we get a shot of Yoshiki seeing Hikaru through his eyes, and you can see like the strands of hair in his way, but there isn't a lot of hair in the way here. You kind of get a clear shot of Hikaru, and he's smiling and he looks very innocent. This kind of shot persists throughout this entire episode, where we see Hikaru for the most part. Some other times we see other characters or other things through his eyes, but for the most part we only see Hikaru through his eyes, and that's very, very on the nose. We're seeing him because he's all he has in his world, in his sight. He's all he wants to see. Seeing these scenes of him smiling and everything, they mean a lot, because it almost probably reminds Yoshiki of old times. And then of course we get the incredible opening, one of my favorites of this year, easily, within anime, and we get to see it here for the first time in its natural environment. And yes, something I was talking about at the beginning of the episode, where I was saying that those quiet moments within this series really help to offset the creepiness and the horror of the series, that is even more prevalent within the opening itself, where we have so much creepiness and this feeling of something's not right. At the beginning we see some imagery that's really just kind of scary and everything, but then we have this beautiful breakdown from Vondi, and yeah, there's beauty and there's also horror that persists alongside it. It's very interesting, this series, how it's able to juggle those two different things so well. And this is only 2 episodes in at this point, and granted that this episode, like I was saying, didn't really have a whole lot going on, but it's definitely setting up for more to come in the future. And I love that this series isn't afraid to kind of slow things down. That's something we saw a lot in Steins Gate, and it definitely helped to make climaxes and big moments even more impactful. We learn that this old lady from the end of the previous episode may have committed suicide by shoving her hand down her throat. And that's making me think she either did so to keep something else, keep something out, or something forced her to do that, or there was something else. Maybe she just had something shoved down her throat and she was trying to get it out. Who knows? But it definitely seems to me that she was trying to protect herself. She was trying to stop whatever from entering her, and for some reason it was through the throat, which makes sense because later on in the episode, what does Hikaru do? Hikaru consumes this other entity by eating it. So it seems that the way it enters someone is probably through the mouth, and then right after this, the guy who's scared of the forest says that this old lady probably saw something she shouldn't have, and that's when we get another shot of Yoshiki looking right at Hikaru. But this time there's more hair in the way. There's more distance, and there's more of a barrier between the two of them. You know, that like these words of saw something she shouldn't have makes him look immediately at Hikaru, and there's this gap, there's this distance, there's this barrier between them, and it's being shown to us in a very creative way through hair, because his visual is being blocked. Have I said, by the way, that I absolutely love the visual storytelling within this series because it is so wonderful? It's not the most difficult to kind of analyze, because you know a lot of this stuff is very obvious, very clear, and very in your face, but I just love seeing all of this because it's so amazing to see so much being told to us without literally being told. We're being shown little things that make this more rich, I would say, this experience. So this other friend talks about this gate that's really scary, this forest that he has to walk through. He starts to ask, Yoshiki, can you walk me home? Can you be there to protect me? And Hikaru shows up and says, I'll go with you. And everyone then starts to say they're gonna go. I love this short-haired girl, by the way, because she seems really fun. I think she might be a really fun character to get to know, get to learn more about. I think she might also be the kind of character who will realize kind of what Yoshiki is realizing, because we saw a glimpse of that in the first episode where she kind of looked at Hikaru like, that doesn't seem right. So we might see her eventually realize some things here. But we also then get another shot of Yoshiki seeing Hikaru through his own eyes. And this time it's really interesting because Yoshiki's looking down. He's not really looking up because of what Hikaru's saying, where he's like, I'm not that person anymore. I don't get scared easily. I'm a completely different person. That's what makes this sad, because we know Yoshiki fell in love with someone else. That person physically still seems to be here in appearance, but it's not the same person. But he's having to deal with grief. And I wonder if within this series we're going to see the different stages of grief, because he was in mourning. We saw that within the first episode. He's still in mourning. He still looks very sad and upset every single time we see him, especially around Hikaru. But another thing that we've seen is kind of like this bargaining, but it's really interesting because this bargaining isn't like begging for him not to be gone or anything, or like, I wish it was me or anything like that. He is kind of bargaining with himself that this Hikaru is better than no Hikaru. So in my mind, that seems like bargaining. If that isn't a good case of bargaining, let me know. I wonder if we're going to see those other different stages. And sadly, those are the only stages I can think of off the top of my head, apart from the final stage of acceptance. So I wonder if we'll get to see Yoshiki go through those different stages within the series. I will actually read up on those different stages, not like dive into what they mean or anything, but read up on what the different stages are before checking out the next episode. But anyway, like I was saying, he's looking down. So this is, I think, the only time we see him move to look at Hikaru as we see this kind of shot. The way this one is done is really interesting because we have the hair kind of going around Hikaru. Hikaru is fixed central in the middle, the very center of the screen. We can see him very clearly, but everything else is blocked out. So then we get this scene with the guy from the company showing up with all these other characters, these side goons who are very much aware of whatever ritual went down in the mountain, the ritual that somehow involved Hikaru and Hikaru's father, it would seem. I really don't understand what to make of this just yet. It's not very clear to me. I wonder if the fact they can't find Hikaru's father means that Hikaru's father's head is the one that Hikaru had at the beginning of the previous episode, and the one that is shown here within this, the shrunken head, this stone, the black stone, I think it was called. But we learned some information here that might be important, probably will be important, but you know, there seems to be a corporation and a company, and a corporation was planning on altering the land, but the company stepped in or something like that. So yeah, there's something going on there. there. I wish we knew a little more about this company, but we know next to nothing at this point. There's mention of the weird shit that's happening in town, and then the weird looking guy, like, I don't know how to explain him more, but he just looks like he's doesn't really belong in this series next to the other characters. He looks a little different. He starts to mention that the Indo son went missing. I think this is talking about Hikaru, and that the ritual must have been a failure. So that, accompanied with the imagery that we see here, where we see this bug that came out of this like cocoon, this shell or whatever. It looked like it was shedding a shell, but in doing so it was weakened, or in doing so it wasn't exactly ready to live or something. Like, I don't know, but it fell. The shell was also there in the ground, and these ants are eating it. So these ants feel very much like what it is that, you know, is within Hikaru now, where there was the Hikaru shell, and then there was the Hikaru spirit, I guess. And now we saw that all these ants, like these, I wouldn't say ants are parasites, but, you know, they swarm in and they consume this thing until there's nothing left. And that's making me think as well, because ants imagery usually is used to represent, you know, many working together for a purpose. But the way things are described within this, where there's one great terror within the mountain, it seems like there's only one of those. So why are there all these other ants, unless this new being is used to represent that one thing, and it takes the work of many to take it down, or it will take the work of many to take it down. If that's maybe the imagery that they're going for here, kind of hard to pinpoint what they're actually trying to tell us here, because obviously this bug is supposed to represent like a rebirth in terms of Hikaru. We see the setup for the forest scene where nothing goes wrong. They walk through it. I've already talked about that. But what comes next is a scene where Nanaki-sama is once again mentioned, and we see a really interesting camera technique used here. I don't know specifically if there's anyone who knows film very well and can explain it to me. I'll try and do my best to explain what I interpret this kind of camera technique as, and what I think I remember it's supposed to represent. But the way the camera flips, like the whole way around, my understanding is supposed to represent people's lives being flipped upside down, their worlds, you know, changing. And the camera technique, I can think of it in two other films, both used by both the same director. But there is a scene within Hereditary where Annie, the main character, the mother, she goes to an apartment complex and realizes something, and then the camera technique does this, and it's used to represent her world being flipped upside down. Within Midsummer as well, when they enter the go to the place, I think it says like welcome to whatever, the camera flips upside down again as we follow the car, and that's used to represent the fact that these characters' lives are about to flip. So I don't know really what it's supposed to be telling us when it flips the whole way around, because for the most part, times when I can think of that, it's very slow and sometimes doesn't flip all the way back. And the reason I'm thinking it's not necessarily maybe so much that their lives are flipped, everything's going to change, unless whatever is on these pieces of paper that are on the floor is telling us something that obviously I don't know, because I can't interpret it, I can't read it. But unless that's telling us something, and then this is kind of telling us for the other people of the village, the other people of the town, the fact that this is a confirmation that things are changed, things are different, and that the lives of everyone in this town will not be the same. Maybe it's used to represent that, but the character that we see right after this is the guy from the company, and I can't imagine this is telling us that his world is going to get rocked, because he's very much involved in a lot of this kind of stuff, a lot of these kind of dealings. So I'm not sure really if it's telling us that for him specifically, or if this camera technique can sometimes mean something else. But I love the way when it gets to its final position, it's almost like a real camera where it judders and it kind of doesn't get into place immediately. So yet again, it's almost like something's not quite perfect. Like, things aren't perfect, things are a little off. The fact that that's all told to us through simple camera movement within an animated series, Man, this is a special series. I'm telling you something. Like, Games. I was not familiar with your game, but holy shit, this is incredible. And this is then when we cut back to Yoshiki in the forest walking through, and he notices something off in the distance because he looks out. He doesn't look at the path. And what he sees is some return the slab type shit. He sees this figure with a long ass neck and head swaying side to side. Very, very much Courage the Cowardly Dog Return the Slab is exactly what this reminds me of. He's staring right at it, and that spells bad things for Yoshiki, because this means Hikaru has to kind of stop and be like, you saw it, didn't you? Once again, we get to see a still shot of him staring at Hikaru here. But right before that, we do get a shot of him staring at the ground, and we see that through his eyes. So that's the first time we've seen a shot through his eyes that wasn't Hikaru. But then that's immediately followed up shortly after with the scene of him seeing Hikaru through his eyes. So I'm not really sure how to interpret the part of him looking down. It's obviously showing how scared he is. So Hikaru tells Yoshiki to come towards him. And as he's doing that, like, he's just like frozen in place. He's completely full of fear. He is terrified. The fact that all of this stuff is now entering his life when he lived a perfectly normal life prior to this, even though I'm sure he has been coming to terms with his sexuality. I'm sure that has been a big part of his coming of age, his growing up. So dealing with that, and then dealing with the horror of this world and the horror that he is being introduced to, it makes that journey for him seem almost like a horror story. Like, he's trying to come to terms with this stuff while all this crazy shit is happening. So there's probably some storytelling being told there about both those things being connected with one another. I can't imagine this being a horror series when it's also dealing with aspects of boys' love and coming to terms with that sexuality. I can't imagine that was unintentional. I imagine that was very, very much the plan. Anyway, the shot where we see Yoshiki staring out and then this face come into view on the right side of the screen, it reminded me a lot of that scene from Insidious with the red demon behind the main guy character, the father or whatever. I can't remember his actor name, but he's the one who's also in The Conjuring, and he's also that one guy in The Phantom of the Opera. He's got a great singing voice. What makes that interesting is that they're both kind of played for jump scares. This one didn't so much give me a jump scare because I was already unsettled and on edge. It didn't come out of nowhere. But one thing I'll also say is that I'm not the biggest fan of jump scares. I love horror. My wife and I have been watching nothing but horror for the past month or two. Like, we were kind of on like a Stephen King rip for a while, where we were watching like the original It miniseries, we were watching the It remakes, we watched Carrie, we watched Misery a while ago. You know, we're kind of going through a bunch of horror films right now. We've been watching the Conjuring films as well. Actually, speaking of the Conjuring, I should actually recommend we rewatch Insidious, because I haven't seen those in a very long time, and I remember really enjoying those first two films. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is that I love a good horror story that doesn't rely on jump scares. That is why I will always say that Hereditary is my favorite horror, probably, of all time. I know that that's very high praise considering the fact it only came out like a handful of years ago, and there are some other incredible horror stories out there. But I just love that it's a horrific horror story that does not rely on jump scares. I just really think jump scares are cheap. They don't really add to anything a lot of the times. They can certainly be great. Don't get me wrong, jump scares can be great in moments situationally. That's why, as well, at the same time, I really love James Wan's horror direction work, because he doesn't necessarily depend on jump scares, but he will use a jump scare maybe once or twice in a movie that is done really well. Case in point, the red demon from Insidious, that this shot that I'm speaking of from the Summer Hikaru Died is reminding me of. Sorry, I kind of just started talking about movies. I didn't mean to. Well, I did mean to, I did it, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm just kind of trying to explain why I didn't necessarily feel jump scared by this, but I love that it's adding creepiness, and it's adding a whole different dimension to this world, because it's no longer just Hikaru. There are these other entities out there. There are these other things, and they do different things. They latch on in different ways and everything. So yeah, this was a really great insight into a whole different world within this series, and Hikaru simply deals with it by consuming it. He gets a bit of a nosebleed because of that, but yeah, regardless of that, like, it's so well done here. We learn that things are worse than the company guy thought they were, and that he has gone somewhere safe, and he has conjured up a barrier of some sort around this shrine location that he is now at. And this barrier, I wonder if it is physical. It protects and wards them from evil beings. I wonder if it's kind of like Dandadan, to use an example, where they can put up like the wards, and that will stop evil things from being able to enter or exit depending on the way that you do it. It can stop things from getting in or out. So I wonder if that's kind of what's happened here. So they are safe in this location. But that's then when we get this insight into this black stone, this head. And this thing is used for luck. It's used for protection. And so it can protect against almost anything. But now I'm wondering if the fact that this thing that's within Hikaru's dead body was able to get in because he didn't have the bag on him, it was off to the side, or if it was able to get in him because the way this is described is that this black stone can protect against almost anything. But this thing within Hikaru maybe was immune, maybe was outside of that almost anything. I guess time might tell as to where that kind of falls, which side of that pendulum. And the mountain is now pure, but this black stone is not responsible for that purity. The fact that Hikaru is being possessed is the cause for the purity within the mountain now. The impurity has been wiped out, and he was under the belief that this black stone was doing it, but it was not. This black stone would not be capable of doing all of that. So that's when they start to theorize that something is now living among them. It's come down from the mountain, and it's here amongst all of them. And it feeds off of fear. The fact that she was so fearful, this old lady, is why it targeted her. But I was under the belief that it targeted her because she could blow the cover. She knew more than she should have. And even Yoshiki was threatened. Hikaru threatened to kill Yoshiki if he couldn't keep it to himself, so nobody is safe here. I don't know what this human looking shape or figure that we see within the tea is supposed to represent. I really don't have a clue, but yeah, it's very bizarre and interesting. So if anyone has their own interpretations that maybe isn't spoiling anything, let me know. I'd love to hear, because this one is leaving me absolutely stumped. Hikaru tells Yoshiki that if he sees one of these things again, to let him know. Hikaru's going to deal with it for him. When Hikaru and Yoshiki are leaving the forest, the two girls are already out, and they're like, oh, thank goodness you're out. We heard something, and it sounded like a pop. And that's when Hikaru's like, oh, I just fell. I tripped and fell, and my nose is bleeding now. So this other girl is thinking, that's what it sounded like. She also notices that the weird feeling within the forest is gone. So Hikaru notices that. Hikaru is staring right at her, and his eyes are glowing red, and it looks like he is picking out his next target almost, but I hope not, because like I was saying, I really like her. I think she's a fun character, but I do think she's going to realize things, because she's already being shown to be the kind of character who will piece things together. But he gets snapped out of this almost death stare when Yoshiki speaks to him. We get this really dialogue where Hikaru is like thinking to himself, I don't have to take him, he's going to stick with me anyway. Is he being told what to do? Is he being told that he should take Yoshiki? Like, what is this scene about? I don't understand it. And then that's when we get to see this fire burning within him, and his eyes glow red, and says he's going to make sure nothing can take him away. There's this feeling of, seems obviously like Yoshiki has romantic feelings for Hikaru. It feels like Hikaru has almost possessive feelings for Yoshiki. And yeah, then we get that scene with the whole story that Hikaru was told when he was young. I've kind of already talked about that, but one of the other big scenes within this episode that just was really heartbreaking was the scene where he shoved his hand within Hikaru. And that's just all the more clear that he is not a person anymore. He is not who he was. He is a completely different entity. And that's made clear when he can't even look at Hikaru, unbuttons his shirt, and then he looks away because he cannot look. He knows that this is not normal. He knows that this is not okay. But Hikaru is all like, oh, you can put your hand in, and immediately he does it. And Hikaru says something really weird and interesting where he's like, it's been a while since I felt something alive inside me. So yet again, emphasizing the fact that he's dead. And then we get the shot of him bringing his hand all the way up. It feels very intimate, and they're both kind of experiencing different things here, where Yoshiki is experiencing shock. Like it's almost like he's in disbelief at what he's experiencing, because this is his best friend. This is someone that he has feelings for, and he's just being made aware time and time and time and time and time again that this is not that person anymore. Whereas Hikaru is almost like enjoying this. This is something that feels really good for him. And that's when we get a really scary scene where it looks like Yoshiki is being pulled in towards Hikaru. It looks like whatever is this gap in his body, it looks like it's sucking him in, because Yoshiki comes flying towards the camera and he's screaming. And then we get to see the red blood cells. I don't know really what to think of those, if they're used to represent this entity, whatever that is inside Hikaru's dead body. And then we also get to see Hikaru's dead stare. Whatever this thing is, it looks like what we were shown earlier with the bug. It's almost like there are two sides to Hikaru. There is the real Hikaru, the Guru Hikaru, and then there's the real Hikaru. Like, and I say Hikaru here in this sense both times, in the sense of like the fake one, the one that's taken over, because it's very much trying to imitate Hikaru, but also it has a nature, and within its nature it kills and it does all these awful things. And it looks like it's about to do that with Yoshiki, even though it said not long ago that it would keep him safe and it wouldn't let anything else get him. But Hikaru tries to play this off. It's like, haha, you got scared, and like very jokey. So then they have the scene where Yoshiki is seemingly just staring at Hikaru's body, and it looks very normal. It looks like his real body. And so this scene feels once again intimate but more literal, because there's this feeling of like, oh, I shouldn't be looking at this from Yoshiki, but he can't help but look. And another thing, before when he had his hand inside him, he said, oh, that feels like a pat in the head. And then after all this, we see Yoshiki literally grab Hikaru and grab him in the top of the head, and it does seem like he's giving him that pat in the head. It's like he's still returning those feelings that Hikaru was feeling when his hand was inside him, but this time it's the pat in the head that he compared it to. And then the scene in the shop, the most horrific scene of all, the most horrific act within this entire series, going grocery shopping. How terrible, how horrific, how scary. It can also be that way for those with social anxieties or anything like that. And I wonder if Yoshiki's got some social anxieties. I feel like we've seen him within some social settings, school and everything, so maybe not so much, but he does have a very harrowing experience while he is grocery shopping. The sounds, the sights, everything is just so unnerving, and it's hard to explain why it was done this way, because the way Yoshiki was seeing the actual horrors of the series were not as intense as this. It's done incredibly. I love the way it's done. The shot where she picks up the camera, even, I know that this is animated, so like saying that sounds stupid, but yet again, Cygames showing their technical prowess here. I'm absolutely amazed by the work that they do here, and the fact that they're making this feel so off-putting, so creepy, and just unnerving in simple normal scenes like this really goes to show the headspace that Yoshiki is in, because he's in a normal situation but still all these thoughts are going through his head. It's maybe getting to the point where we're gonna start to see that he's not necessarily getting close to people, he's not necessarily interacting with people, he's not trusting people because of the things that he's experiencing. I wonder if we're going to see that eventually, but for now it just makes me feel unnerved, and it makes me feel nervous for him that he is experiencing life this way. And that is when Yoshiki is approached when he leaves the shop by the lady who is describing to him that he needs to stay away from this thing because he's going to get mixed up on all this, and he won't exactly be human at the end of it if he does get mixed. And maybe that's something that Yoshiki could find some sort of relief in, the fact that he will be just like Hikaru. I don't know how much he values his humanity, how much he values his existence, because he is still dealing with those feelings that he has for Hikaru. So maybe in his mind, we'll see if he can become like Hikaru, he will be happier, he will be better off, he will feel that way. It would be very interesting to see if things go in a different direction, if things go in that kind of direction. I'll be kind of trying to pay attention to his mindset and where he's at to see if that's where it goes, but he's warned anyway. And she kind of explains to him that she can feel these things, she can sense these things, and she has been able to sense this great impurity within the forest, the mountain, and that impurity is gone now, and she believes it is traveling alongside Yoshiki through Hikaru, and so she's warning him to stay away, she's warning him to be careful. And then we get another shot of Yoshiki kind of trying to come to terms with everything that's been happening. He is very clearly grieving. He's lying in bed, very alone. It's dark. He's having these flashes. It's red. It's creepy. It's definitely not right because he's seeing all these different things. This imagery that represents Hikaru's body being taken over. He's seeing this imagery of Hikaru being normal, but you know, there's obviously something wrong there because of the red background. So everything we're seeing here, it's very nightmare fuel-ish, because sometimes he's seeing like normal looking scenes, but the red intensity in the background very much makes this very clear that nothing is okay, nothing's normal, nothing is all right here, things are not looking good. And what makes it even sadder is that it feels like he's seeing the Hikaru in these scenes. Like there's no sense that this is the thing that has taken over his body, because the scenes look very normal. It looks like they're just interacting. We see the scene right, like the final time that he saw Hikaru, where he's, you know, makes the shitty reference to his teacher and then says about going up the mountain and everything. So right after that, then we do see the bug scene where this, I can't tell if it's a parasite comes out of this bug or like this rebirth. I don't know what type of bug this is, so I can't speak on it too well, but very much about what happened with Hikaru here, this imagery. And yeah, it looks like he's able to finally drift off to sleep, but I feel so bad for this poor guy. He has gone through so much. He is not okay. He is not doing well, and he's dealing with all of this by himself, which is heartbreaking. I hope that eventually the short-haired girl will come on to things like this. She will come around to it and she will understand, she will learn, and that Yoshiki can find some solace and find some companionship in her, and you know, just have someone to talk to. Though I fear for her if she does learn, because Hikaru might not be as kind. I think that might do it for me for today, for this video. I love this one. I said at the beginning of this post-hoc analysis that there wasn't really much within this, but I feel like I talked for a very long time. Let me see how long this recording's been. I might cut parts out of it, obviously. Yeah, we're approaching 2 hours in the recording. Some of that was me going and getting water and stuff, so you know, not an entire 2 hours of talking, but there's been a lot of talking here, at least an hour probably of talking. So we'll see how long this video is. Could be a very long one, but yeah, thank you guys so much for checking this one out. I hope that you enjoyed. I certainly did. If you guys did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe if you've not done so already, and comment down below letting me know, like I asked at the beginning, how your feelings are about the series now that it's finishing tomorrow. And yeah, I'd love to hear. Please don't spoil anything about the series though. And yeah, we're going to be back on Monday with another episode reaction, and I hope that I will see you there. Hit the notification bell so that you will be notified when that video does go live, and of course share this with any friends or anyone at all who you think might enjoy the Summer Hikaru Died reaction content. And yeah, that's going to do it for me for today. I hope that you're having a great day today and that you're able to take it easy. I will see you in the next one. Take care.